The Alien Combat Academy stood like a fortress of steel and stone, a place where the strongest warriors from across the galaxy came to train, learn, and fight for honor, and every corner of the massive grounds echoed with the sound of clashing weapons, roars of alien voices, and the heavy rhythm of battle drills. Yet among the towering reptilian soldiers, insectoid fighters with razor claws, and scaled brutes who prided themselves on their strength, one figure seemed completely out of place, a young human woman named Maya, who walked quietly into the ranks without speaking, her posture calm, her eyes sharp, but her silence drawing laughter from the cadets around her because humans were rare in this academy, considered weak and fragile by most species, and the idea that one would stand in the same training field as apex predators felt almost like a joke to the rest. The alien cadets jeered, some hissing, others barking insults in their own tongues, and a few shouted translations so everyone could understand that the human girl would not last even a single day, that she would collapse during the first combat exercise, and while they laughed, Maya did not respond. She only tied her dark hair back, adjusted her training uniform, and waited for the first drill to begin as though none of their words touched her at all. The instructors, massive alien commanders with armored bodies, barked orders as the recruits formed circles, preparing for the combat sessions, and standing at the center of attention was Korvac, the apex warrior, a towering brute with scaled skin like Livingstone, eyes that burned red, and a history of crushing anyone foolish enough to face him in training, for he was the undefeated champion of the academy, the one cadets admired and feared, the one who enjoyed humiliating others in combat to prove dominance, and already he was watching Maya with cruel amusement, baring his fangs in a grin that promised nothing but destruction. Korvac's reputation was carved into the walls of the academy, tales of how he broke 4 arms in a single match, how he crushed the ribs of a champion from another planet, and how he never allowed a fight to last more than a few moments, and now he saw Maya as the perfect target for entertainment, a weak human who dared step into his arena, who dared wear the same training uniform as him and the other apex predators, and he could already taste the laughter he would earn when he broke her down. In front of everyone. The first drills began with sparring matches, cadets paired off to test their speed and strength, and the arena filled with shouts, strikes, and the sharp impact of bodies colliding. Yet even as the others fought with wild energy, Maya stood still, her body calm, her eyes moving from fighter to fighter, watching the movements, the way claws sliced the air, the way heavy feet struck the ground, the way tails whipped in defense or attack, and she seemed to study every detail with quiet focus. While those around her grew more confused by her inaction. The cadets nearest her snarled, one of them, a towering insectoid with 4 arms, jabbed at her chest, demanding that she fight, that she prove she was not wasting the academy's time, but Maya only tilted her head slightly, as if memorizing the angle of his strike, then stepped aside without raising a hand, leaving him hissing in frustration as others laughed at what they thought was cowardice. Korvac watched this with interest, his laughter booming across the arena as he mocked her, shouting that perhaps humans trained by running and hiding rather than fighting, that maybe her people's strategy was to let enemies tire themselves before begging for mercy, and his words drew more chuckles from the watching cadets. But still Maya did not respond, her lips pressed tight, her breathing calm, her eyes following the flow of combat like she was solving a puzzle no one else could see. To the others she seemed weak, but to anyone who looked closer, there was something unsettling in her stillness. For where most fighters wasted energy swinging, roaring, and stumbling, she was conserving hers, standing untouched, unbothered, as though she knew the right moment to act had not yet come. As the drills continued, whispers spread among the cadets, some growing annoyed that she refused to engage, others wondering if there was a hidden reason behind her silence, and a few of the instructors began to frown, sensing something strange in her calm behavior, for recruits usually either fought recklessly or froze with fear. But Maya showed neither panic nor aggression, only quiet patience, as if she were seeing the fight on a different level altogether. Korvac, meanwhile, stepped into the circle of fighters, his heavy frame making the ground shake, his claws gleaming under the training lights, and he began smashing opponents aside with brutal efficiency, tossing one lizard warrior into a wall, stomping down an insectoid's weapon, and roaring his dominance with every blow, his confidence feeding the fear of the cadets and reminding everyone why he was called the Apex Warrior. The arena grew tense as he turned his glowing red eyes toward Maya, pointing a claw at her and demanding she step into the circle with him, declaring that her silence was an insult, that if she wanted to wear the uniform, she had to bleed for it, and the crowd roared in approval. hungry to see her destroyed in seconds. But Maya did not move right away. She only looked at him steadily, her expression unreadable, then slowly stepped forward, her small frame looking fragile beside his massive body, her calmness making even the instructors lean forward in uneasy curiosity. Korvac laughed, raising his arms high, shouting that this would be the quickest fight in Academy history, that the human girl would fall before she even tried to strike, and the crowd cheered with cruel excitement, already imagining her defeat. The match began with a roar, Korvac lunging forward with a devastating strike meant to crush her instantly, and the crowd leaned in, ready to see her broken body. But something strange happened. Maya did not fight back, she did not even raise her arms, she only moved her feet, shifting just enough to avoid the blow, her eyes fixed on Korvac with the same quiet calm, and the attack that should have ended her struck nothing but air. Gasps rippled through the cadets, confusion spreading like fire as Korvac attacked again and again, and still she only stepped aside, tilting her body at the perfect angle, always just outside the reach of his claws, as though she had predicted his movements before he even made them. The crowd grew louder, shouts of anger and disbelief mixing with whispers of fear, and some began to wonder if she was mocking him, if she was waiting for something, if she had some hidden power no one understood, and the instructors narrowed their eyes, leaning toward each other in low conversation about the strange human who did not resist yet could not be touched. Korvac roared in frustration, striking harder and faster, but Maya continued to evade with the same quiet focus, and the sight was unsettling enough to silence many of the cadets who had been laughing only moments ago. The training yard of the Alien Academy was alive with noise and challenge as cadets of many species showed off their skills in combat drills, but Maya the human girl stayed silent and calm, standing at the edge watching everything with careful eyes while others laughed at her weakness and whispered that humans did not belong here. Because they lacked speed, strength or power like the others. She did not argue, she did not raise her voice, instead she simply observed, studying every move, every technique. Every mistake with a focus that made her eyes sharp. The instructors shouted orders and the drills grew harder, yet Maya continued to move with slow precision, blocking blows only when needed, stepping aside instead of striking back and letting her opponents waste their strength. This only made the alien cadets angrier. They wanted her to fight, they wanted her to fail and prove their belief that humans were weak. One alien even hissed at her saying fight or leave, but Maya simply replied in a calm voice, not yet, and this answer spread confusion in the yard. Why would someone come to a combat academy and not fight? The apex warrior Korvac stood at the center, his massive frame covered in battle scars, his armor gleaming under the suns. He had crushed challengers from dozens of worlds, his reputation was fear itself. And when he saw Maya standing there quietly, he laughed, a deep sound that echoed through the arena. He pointed at her and mocked, "This is the human you let in, this is the one who thinks she can learn to fight. She does not even move like a warrior. Let me show you what happens to those who waste my time." The cadets cheered, sensing the coming humiliation, but Maya only bowed her head slightly as if accepting his words without protest. Korvac advanced with heavy steps, his claws flexing, his voice booming out, "I will give you one chance, human, strike me now or I will end this quickly." The silence of the academy was heavy and every eye watched the small figure of Maya, but instead of raising her fists, she simply tilted her head and studied his stance, the angle of his shoulders, the rhythm of his breathing, and the tiny shift of his weight. Korvac roared and charged, expecting her to panic or stumble, but at the last moment she stepped aside with a calm movement, her eyes never blinking, and his massive fist hit only empty air. He turned in shock, but she was already 3 steps away, still calm, still silent. This repeated again and again, Korvac striking with fury and Maya slipping past with smooth precision, not landing a single hit, yet never taking one either. The crowd grew restless, whispers rose. Is she afraid? Is she mocking him? Is she hiding something? And the instructors exchanged glances, for in their experience a fighter who refused to attack was either a coward or someone waiting for the perfect opening. Korvac's anger rose with each failed strike, his muscles burned, his patience snapped. He slammed the ground and the shockwave made dust rise in clouds. Still Maya stood steady, untouched. She finally spoke her first clear words during the drill in a low, steady tone. "I see now." The crowd went silent. "See what?" Korvac shouted in rage. "What can you see, weakling?" Maya's eyes narrowed slightly. She answered, "You leave your left side open when you strike with your right. You trust your speed too much and your weight is always half a beat late." The entire yard froze. Korvac snarled, his pride stung. No one dared to point out his flaws, not even the instructors, yet this quiet human had read him. After only a few moments the other cadets stared at her in shock, whispering, "Could it be true? Does she see weakness in him?" Korvac charged again with fury, desperate to silence her, but Maya simply lowered her stance, her hand brushing the ground as if waiting. Her silence was now not weakness but pressure. Every alien in the yard felt it, and a strange tension grew in the air. The drill ended before Korvac could land a final strike, but everyone knew this was no end, it was only the beginning. As the whistle blew and cadets returned to rest, all eyes followed Maya. She walked away slowly, never showing fear or pride, but her calm presence left a trail of questions behind. Who was she really? Why did she refuse to fight? And most of all, how could a human read the strongest warrior in the academy so easily? That night the whispers spread across the dorms. Some said she had secret training, some said humans hid a strange power, others believed she would not survive long under Korvac's wrath. Yet one thing was clear: the academy had expected a weak human girl who would fail instantly. Instead they now faced a mystery, and mysteries were dangerous in a place where strength ruled the galaxy. The next morning the academy gathered for the survival test, a brutal challenge designed to separate the weak from the strong. It was not simple combat, but a trial inside the arena's wild zone, a vast land filled with harsh terrain, hidden traps and roaming creatures used by instructors to test cadets. The rules were simple: survive for one full cycle and return with the signal beacon. Each cadet was placed alone with no allies, no guides, and no weapons beyond what they could find. Korvac stood with pride, his huge arms crossed as he sneered at Maya, telling her, "You will not last an hour, human." The others laughed and nodded, agreeing that she would be the first to fall, but Maya only gave the same quiet nod she always gave, never rising to his bait. When the gates opened the cadets rushed out, eager to show their skills. Alien warriors leapt across rocks, sprinted through forests, and roared their war cries, each eager to prove they were strongest. Maya, however, moved slowly. She walked instead of ran, her eyes scanning the trees, the shadows, and even the sky, as if measuring everything. Her stillness was strange, yet again it carried power, like she was waiting for the world itself to reveal its secrets. While others clashed with beasts or fought each other, Maya crouched and studied the ground, noting the patterns of broken twigs, the faint trails of dust, and the strange vibration under her feet. She whispered to herself, "They are testing us not with enemies but with our own choices," and she changed direction, moving where no one else went, deeper into the darker section of the arena where few dared to step. Meanwhile Korvac faced beasts head-on, tearing through them with brute strength, showing his fury to everyone. He roared with triumph, believing strength alone would prove him superior. Yet the instructors who watched from above were not as impressed. They noted how much energy he wasted, how easily he grew reckless. The difference between him and Maya became clear, though she was unseen. Her calm, slow movements carried her further than anyone else. While Korvac fought to be noticed, Maya vanished into shadows to survive. Hours passed, tension rose. The scoreboard showed cadets failing one by one as traps swallowed them or beasts overwhelmed them, but Maya's signal remained steady. She had not fallen. The whispers among the watchers grew louder. Who was she really? How could she last this long without even fighting? Near the end of the cycle the academy released their final test, a massive predator beast larger than any cadet, its skin armored, its roar shaking the ground. Korvac charged it without hesitation, and the battle was brutal, claws clashing against strength, but the beast was faster, smarter, and Korvac soon bled from deep wounds. Still he refused to yield, his pride too great. Nearby, hidden among trees, Maya watched, her eyes calm but sharp. She studied the beast, its rhythm of movement, the timing of its strikes, the way its armored plates shifted with each breath. She waited until it lunged again at Korvac, and in that instant she moved, her body flowing with perfect timing. She dashed forward, her small frame nearly invisible compared to the monster, and in a single motion she struck, not with raw power but with precision, her hand driving into a tiny gap beneath the beast's neck. The creature screamed and collapsed. Stunned silence filled the arena, every eye locked on the small human who had ended the fight in less than a breath. Korvac stared at her in shock, his pride wounded more than his body. The instructors stood in disbelief, whispering about impossible accuracy and knowledge of anatomy that only a master could have. But Maya did not smile, she did not even raise her voice. She simply said, "I told you I was watching," then walked past the fallen beast, leaving Korvac to kneel in silence. The cadets erupted with noise, some cheering, some muttering in fear, some unable to believe what they had seen. The human girl who had refused to fight in training had ended the final trial instantly. With one move the whispers grew into rumors that spread through the entire academy before the sun even set. Humans are not weak, humans can see what we cannot, humans hide power no one understands. And yet the greatest question remained: if Maya had such skill, why did she stay silent? Why did she not fight sooner? What was she hiding under that calm mask? The part ended with Korvac clenching his fists in fury, swearing to crush her pride, but deep inside even he felt the first shadow of fear. For the first time in his life he had faced someone who fought not with strength but with patience and vision, and he did not know how to defeat that The academy buzzed with restless energy after the survival test. The story of Maya's quiet strike spread like fire through the halls. Aliens who once mocked her now whispered in uneasy tones, their eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and fear. No one could understand how the small human had dropped the beast faster than anyone else. The instructors tried to keep order, but the tension was too great. Korvac burned with rage, his pride torn apart. He stormed into the central hall where cadets gathered, his voice booming like thunder as he shouted, "Human, you will face me now. No tricks, no hiding, no waiting. I will crush you before them all." The crowd gasped. Some cheered for Korvac, others stayed silent watching Maya. She stood at the edge of the hall, her face calm, her eyes steady. She did not move when Korvac challenged her, and for a long moment everyone thought she might walk away, but then she gave a small nod and said only one word, "Fine." The duel was set. The arena filled again. Cadets packed the stands, eager to see the human finally broken by the apex warrior. Instructors allowed it, though some watched carefully, knowing this fight could change everything. Korvac entered the ring roaring, his armor gleaming, his muscles flexed as he slammed his fists together. He shouted, "This will not be survival test, this will be your end." Maya stepped into the ring with no armor, no weapon. Her simple training uniform was plain, and her movements calm. She bowed once, then stood with hands at her sides. The crowd booed and laughed, believing she had given up before the fight even began. The bell sounded. Korvac charged forward, his speed shocking. Even after hours of battle he swung with full power, aiming to crush Maya in one blow. Yet at the last instant she shifted just enough. The strike missed by a whisper of space. Her eyes never blinking, she stepped aside as Korvac's own momentum carried him past her. The crowd gasped. Maya did not attack, she simply moved again. Each time Korvac struck she dodged, not by luck but by knowledge. Her eyes watching every angle, every breath, every twitch of his muscles. She predicted his attacks before he made them. Korvac grew angrier with each miss, his roars shaking the arena, his strikes faster, harder, desperate to land one hit. But the more he tried, the calmer Maya became. To the watchers it looked impossible, like she was reading the future. Then suddenly she raised her hand and tapped Korvac's wrist with 2 fingers. His arm went numb, he roared and swung with the other hand, and again she touched a single point. His leg buckled, his body lost rhythm. She had not struck with strength, only touched, but each touch broke his balance. The cadets shouted in disbelief. Instructors leaned forward, unable to believe their eyes. Korvac swung wildly, but it was no longer a duel, it was chaos. He could not touch her. Not once. His power meant nothing, his rage only made him clumsier. Finally Maya stepped forward for the first time. She attacked a single precise strike to Korvac's chest, not hard but exact. He froze, his eyes wide, his body collapsing to his knees. Silence filled the arena. No one spoke, no one moved until Maya whispered, "I told you I was watching," and turned her back on him, walking out of the ring. The crowd erupted with noise, shouts, questions, disbelief. Some cheered, others hissed, but none could deny what they saw. The apex warrior brought down not by strength but by patience, knowledge, and a power they had never understood. Korvac slammed his fists against the ground, screaming in fury, humiliation burning him, yet deep in his eyes was fear, for he knew she had ended him with ease. Maya returned to her corner and sat down quietly as if nothing had happened. The instructors gathered in secret, their voices low. One said, "She is not a normal cadet." Another whispered, "She fights like one who has studied every style, every weakness." One more muttered, "Humans are supposed to be weak. How is this possible?" The truth began to spread beyond the academy. Whispers carried to higher councils that a human had defeated the apex warrior without even breaking sweat, and while cadets trembled in awe, Maya simply closed her eyes, resting calm as ever. Yet deep inside she knew the real test was not Korvac nor the academy. The real test was coming, and her silence was hiding something far greater than any of them could imagine. News of the duel spread faster than light through the academy halls and into the far reaches of the system. Alien cadets whispered the name Maya with tones of fear and wonder. Korvac, once untouchable, now sat in shame, refusing to leave his quarters. The instructors spoke in hushed voices, unsure how to report what had happened. But the truth could not be hidden long. The academy was overseen by the Galactic High Council, and soon a message reached their chambers: "A human cadet has defeated the apex warrior Korvac with no weapons, no armor, no sign of effort." The council gathered in their grand hall, leaders of many species cloaked in shadows of power, their eyes gleaming with suspicion. One elder said, "Humans are primitive, this is impossible." Another replied, "Yet the reports are clear." She dropped him as if he were a child. The council demanded Maya be brought before them for questioning at once. Back at the academy, soldiers arrived, their presence heavy and cold. They escorted Maya through long halls. Cadets stared at her, some in awe, some in hatred, others simply afraid. She walked calmly, her eyes steady, her body relaxed, as if none of it mattered. The soldiers brought her into a vast chamber lit by pale fire, where the council members appeared as towering holograms, their voices echoing like thunder. One voice boomed, "State your name." Human, she answered. Maya, simple, clear, no fear. Another asked, how did you defeat Korvac? What trick did you use? She only replied, I watched him. Then silence stretched across the chamber. Some counselors laughed, others snarled. One slammed a hand against the table, shouting, you mock us, you hide your true weapon. Maya tilted her head and said, I have no weapon, only patience. Her calmness unsettled them more than any threat. One elder leaned forward, studying her face with piercing eyes. Humans were never meant to pass our trials, he whispered, yet you passed with ease. Who trained you? Maya said nothing. Her silence cut deeper than words. The council began to argue among themselves. Some wanted to expel her at once, some wanted to dissect her secrets, others feared her potential. In the shadows, a cloaked figure watched, listening more closely than the rest. He was not a counselor but an observer from the Galactic Intelligence Corps. His eyes narrowed as he saw not just a girl but something far more dangerous. After the session, Maya was sent back to the academy, but whispers followed her. Corridors seemed colder, eyes sharper. Every step she took was watched, yet she remained calm. Even when Korvac returned, his pride broken but his hatred alive, he confronted her in the training hall, his voice low, this is not over. Human, you embarrassed me before the galaxy and I will tear you apart. Maya only looked at him and said, then learn from your loss, before walking away, leaving him shaking with rage. Meanwhile, the council demanded deeper investigation into Earth itself. If one human could do this, perhaps others could too. Fleets were ordered to monitor human colonies. Spies were dispatched. Scientists reviewed every record of Earth's wars, its strategies, its strange history of survival. What they found unsettled them. Humans had fought endless battles, not with the strongest bodies, not with the greatest weapons, but with something else: resilience, adaptability, cunning. One report read, humans do not win because they are strongest, they win because they refuse to stop. Another added, their history is filled with patience followed by sudden violence. This pattern is dangerous. The council debated long into the night. Some feared war, some feared control slipping through their hands. While all this happened, Maya trained quietly alone on the empty grounds, while others shouted, planned, or trembled. She breathed slowly, watching every shadow, every detail. She knew they were coming closer to the truth, and though she had revealed only a fraction of what she was capable of, she understood her path was narrowing. Soon she would not face just Korvac or the academy but the entire council itself, and somewhere deep inside the thought did not frighten her, it called to her like destiny. The day of truth arrived faster than anyone expected. The Galactic Council summoned Maya again, but this time it was not for questions, it was for judgment. The great chamber burned with light, banners of 100 species swaying in the air. The seats were full, warriors, officials, spies, and even common citizens all gathered to witness the strange human who had broken the order of things. Korvac stood at the side, his face twisted with fury, ready to testify against her. The High Chancellor rose, his voice sharp. Maya of Earth, you are accused of deception, of hiding forbidden power, of threatening the balance of our galaxy. How do you plead? Maya looked at them with the same calm eyes and said, I plead nothing, I only showed you truth. The chamber stirred, whispers turning to roars. The Chancellor demanded, what truth? She spoke quietly, yet every word echoed the truth, that you have mistaken strength for noise. You believe only those who shout, who dominate, who crush others are strong, but strength is also silence, patience, endurance. It is the ability to wait until the moment matters, then strike once and end it. The crowd hushed, her words cutting through centuries of arrogance. Korvac shouted, lies, she tricked me, the council should destroy her. But before he could speak again, Maya lifted her hand. For the first time since she arrived, power flowed not from weapons, not from machines, but from herself. A stillness so sharp it froze the hall, even the air seemed to stop. Her voice carried like a blade, humans are not the strongest, we are not the fastest, but we are the ones who watch, we are the ones who adapt, and when the time comes we are the ones who end wars. The chamber trembled as the councillors shifted uneasily. Some could not breathe, some clutched their seats as if the weight of her words pressed down upon them. The cloaked observer from Galactic Intelligence stepped forward, his face half hidden, his tone cold. She is not lying, I have studied her people, their history, their endless survival. They are dangerous not because of power but because they never stop. Even in defeat they wait and they learn. Silence followed like a storm before thunder. Then the Chancellor struck the floor with his staff and said, human, you cannot remain in this academy, you are too dangerous to the balance of all worlds. Maya met his eyes and said, balance has never been real, it is control, and control always breaks before truth. Gasps spread. Korvac lunged forward furious, but Maya did not move, she only stepped aside at the perfect moment. His charge carried him crashing into the council steps, humiliating him again. The hall erupted, chaos, boiling shouts, demands, threats, and fear, yet Maya simply turned her back and walked away, her figure steady, her shadow stretching like a warning. She knew now that her path was set. The galaxy had seen her not just as a cadet, not just as a fighter, but as a sign, a spark that could ignite something far greater. The council feared her, but fear spreads faster than chains, and among the Younger cadets among the watchers in the hall, among the silent those who were always ignored, her image planted a seed. The galaxy had underestimated humans, and now it was too late to unsee the truth she carried within her. Calm footsteps echoed as she left the chamber, each one sounding like the drum of a war yet to come. And deep inside her heart, Maya finally let herself whisper a thought meant for no one else: they will never understand until it is too late.